Hey everyone, welcome to April's edition of Agent U.
It's so nice to see everybody today. We're so excited to have JoJo Herndon in the house with us. He is such an inspiration. We actually saw him during an event that he was speaking at, and we immediately, as a team, looked at each other and were like, we absolutely have to have him on Agent U because he is such a great coaching guide to have that kind of talk to bring you back into what your goals are and give you the right mindset into what you should be doing for your business, especially during a time where the market is such a challenge. This is a great time to hear from somebody like JoJo, and we'll let him give you a little bit of a background on what he does before he gets into his speaking.
Time to give you a fresh perspective for your spring market.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Laura. My name is JoJo Herndon. I have been a found learner of what it is to be a leader and a coach. I've been in the pharmaceutical sales type arena for about 26 years now, and more in the recent, probably 5-6 years, I've been in a leadership role, leading teams, etc. And one of the things that I do beyond that is my passion. I do have a coaching business, which I've learned a lot about how to connect people to ignite that what is the transformational growth for them. Because one of the biggest challenges we all face is we have desires, we have goals, we have things we want to achieve, but we don't realize that we're the number one culprit of whether or not we reach those. So my passion is about helping people find what it is inside of them to ignite that transformational growth. I am a husband of 25 years, going in June, and I'm a father of 5. So you could imagine I'm doing a lot of coaching all the time, trying to get young people's minds ready for the world that's ahead of them. But that's a little bit about me, but excited to be here with you all. And is it all right if I go ahead and start, Laura and Caitlin?
Yep,
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
host privileges are ready to go.
Thank you. Let me share my slide deck here. All right. Today, I want to talk to you about what's your North Star. It's nothing to be out of the ordinary where you need to have a vision. Now, some of you probably already have a vision depending on where you're at in your career, personal life, but oftentimes people forget about their vision. They write it out, they put it off to the side, but they don't realize that a vision is the map. It's the North Star. And it really starts with a few things that we're going to hit on today around purpose, around being able to see what that purpose is and what it looks like, and then what are the values behind you taking those steps. So today, as we take a look at vision and what it means and why it's important, here's a couple things I'm going to cover with you. 4 buckets. 1, I'm going to hit on the core principles in setting a vision. Then I'm going to talk about what's your why, your purpose. And in that, I will then transition over to a couple of the other pieces around the core principles. And then finally, how do you make that vision a reality? And in addition to that, once you have that good trajectory towards your vision, where do you go from here? Because oftentimes the hardest part, some people think, is kind of getting the vision going, but some might say how do we sustain it? How do we keep growing? So kicking things off, there's a song that says that Diana Ross sings, and she says, do you know where you're going to? Do you like what life is showing you? Do you know? And it's a song, and you might be saying, what is this? I've never heard of it before. But that song really hits on the core of, do you know where you're going to? Or do you show up every day doing a bunch of activities, checking off a box list, and you're checking those boxes, but you're suffering from Groundhog's Day, and you're not really progressing. So here's a couple things we're going to hit on first. When the core principles of setting your vision, if you have one in place, it might be a good time to recheck it and to say, do I have some of these things fitting in my vision to allow yourself to hit those goals in that desired state you want to be in? The first thing is purpose, and we're going to hit on that in a second. The next piece is picture it. Can you see it? Can you actually get an idea of what it would look like if you were operating in your vision today? And then thirdly, values. What are going to be those core principles that are going to dictate the decisions you make along the way to help you to get to the vision. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what's your why. So there's a book by the author Simon Sinek titled Start With Why. And the emphasis that this author really hits home on is many times for every marketing campaign and with every vision, most people will start with the what. This is what I do. But a lot of people forget about like, what is it behind what you do? Why? So why is your purpose? And I'll start off with a little example of a story that comes from this book, Start With Why, where the author talks about the Wright brothers, who, if many of you are well aware, they owned a bicycle shop in Ohio, but they're also known for being able to develop the first operational airplane. Well, along those same lines, there was another individual who was more qualified than they were, and his name was Samuel Pierpont Langley. He was well educated. He had a team that was provided to him. He had all the support from the government, a lot of financing, and yet people who didn't even have any college degrees, they didn't even really have all the support that this Samuel Pierpont had to develop the first plane, and they got there. The difference is when the Wright brothers did reach that goal of and that vision of establishing a plane, while they were doing it, in addition to them running their bicycle shop, they had a purpose of what would this do for the world around us? If we can be successful in developing a plane, that means that we can explore more places more frequently. That means that we can visit families, and that can connect families from all over the world, or it just changes the game. You could expand your business. Your bicycle shop can now be, selling bicycles to people in different parts of the country. At that time, that was a major idea, but that was what drove them. And yet, the interesting thing is they had the purpose. And when you look at Langley, when Langley found out that they beat him, he stopped the quest. He could have continued to find different ways to make the plane even more effective at that time. But instead, he said, you never heard from him again. He stopped pursuing how do you make the airplane even better. So there wasn't any purpose behind what he was doing. So I share that with you as an example. What is your why? Can people really, people buy into what it is that you believe and how you show up? So as I said earlier, a part of my passion and why I do coaching on the side, executive coaching on the side, is because I do have a passion about igniting transformational growth in people. Because when you ignite the growth in someone by asking them the right questions and hearing them out and helping them to see and understand where they're currently at based on where they want to go, and have them talk to, well, what do you think you need to do to get there? That's my purpose, because if they do that, they make the world better, not only for them, but also the world that I live in. There's a saying out there that says, all rising tides raises all ships. So what it is that you're doing is your purpose, elevating everyone and everything around you in the ecosystem you operate in. So if you're a realtor, if you're a financier, and you're looking at, hey, I'm helping people to, as a realtor, find their dream home. Why is that important? Because there's so much that happens with a home. It helps to build wealth. It's a safe haven for people to be able to connect with their loved ones, and having children who are grown come back home with their families. Like, there's so much there that you can connect with that. So there's a greater purpose than just a transactional piece like I sold another home today. Because if that's all that's there, anybody can do that. But if you put another piece to the puzzle, right? When I first got my first home, my wife and I, we were married maybe about 2 years, and there was our realtor. Her name was Mary Lee. And my daughter at the time, who was only 2, she's now 23, she couldn't say Mary, for whatever reason, she said Mary Leaf, right? But the beauty of that is Mary Lee knew we were first-time home buyers. There were all these different things as a first-time home buyer, you realtors and all the folks that are in the financial side of things. No, there's challenges. We didn't have the full 20% down payment, et cetera. But Mary Lee found a way to help us get our dream home. And she made something that I at one point thought was not possible. So I'm very thankful for what she did because we were looking in a different direction. And she said, no, I think with what you have as a family, where your family's going right now, because we just had our second child and we were outgrowing our apartments, she knew what we needed to help us to move to the next place. So what you do is more than just transactional. You're changing people's lives, not only their lives, but their children's lives. And that's where how you show up every day really plays a point in terms of why people say, I'm going to choose you as an agent, or I'm going to work with you, to help with my financing, et cetera, because you're seeing the bigger picture. How can I best help this person meet their objective? And that's the why. It's bigger than you. So when you think about it's bigger than you, the second piece of the core principles, purpose is the biggest one. Once you get that down pat, the next piece is taking a look at your core values. So there are going to be many decisions you're going to have to make. And as you establish milestone goals, as you talk about who are the people you need to work with, and you're going to have those core values that are going to guide you in your decision making. Trust is always a big one for some. It might be innovation. It might be, I'm always trying to meet the needs of my customers. So when you're making a decision, you'll come back to say, you know what, does this fall into the category of helping to innovate the area that you're selling in or operating in, or is it taking away from that innovation? That really helps you when you have your core values to make those decisions along the way when you're on your journey. The next piece here is, I have this here is can you see it? When I was a kid and a young athlete, I used to wake up on Saturday mornings before I played my football games and watch the inside the NFL to get highlights. The reason why I did it because when I trained throughout the week, I would imagine myself running around people and I could see myself doing certain moves where I could see it in my mind. And it's the same thing with your vision. Can you see it? Taking the time to write out what would it look like if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, depending on where you are in your career or where you're at in terms of accomplishing your vision, you might want to look out just 12 months. Some of you might want to look out 24 months. Because when you do that, it allows you to actually pinpoint what are the pieces I need to be thinking about as I move forward. But you got to be able to start to visualize. It's not that you're going to have the whole picture. Don't get that in your mind. But that you have some of that picture to know how it is you're going to progress toward meeting that vision that you have for your life, AKA your purpose. So now I want to talk a little bit about how do you make the vision become a reality? As you see this picture of downtown Disney, right? Many of you know who Walt Disney is. You know that he was a visionary. You know that he bought a piece of swampland down in Florida after he had built Disneyland. And basically that land, was kind of like, how in the world could you build anything here? But he had a vision. Unfortunately, Walt Disney never saw Disney World ever come to fruition. But who did? A lot of people don't know Walt Disney's brother, his brother Roy. Roy was the strategist. Roy was the one who bought into the vision, bought into the why of his brother, but yet Roy brought the practicality of what it takes to actually get there. So some of the things that Roy did, Roy was in retirement when Walt Disney passed away, and they were just about to embark on this whole building of Walt Disney World. He postponed his retirement and believed so much in his brother's vision that he was able to finance and build the whole Disney World on $400 million and didn't owe any money back after it was built. He was a strategist. He collaborated with a number of different people. He was very particular about what will it take behaviorally to make this vision become a reality. Because oftentimes when we think vision, we think more global. That's great. But then we also got to think, what are the practical things I need to do today, tomorrow, to start building to make that goal or vision a reality? So think about as you transition over to, I got my why, I got my purpose. How then do I strategize and thinking ahead about some of the things I might need to adjust, I might need to change? Those are some big factors of keeping in mind, right? So now that you made your vision a reality, here's another piece. Here's another quick story I'll tell you. I had done some coaching with my kids when they were playing youth soccer. And my son, who plays college soccer right now down at Cal U, he was probably about 6 or 7. And on his team, they were called the Purple People Eaters. And that was the name the team came up with. And we had kids jumping all over the place and everything. And our biggest challenge was our goalkeeper, right? The young lady we had in the goalkeeper, she was very athletic, but man, she was always talking about how she was a superhero and she was jumping around doing flips and everything. And one day at practice, I said, we can get her to focus a little bit, right? And one of the things that I did is I talked to her, my wife and I were, because we were coaching the team together, and my wife and I were talking about how can we, and I said, I got it. Years ago, there was an Under Armour commercial that said, protect this house, right? That was their logo, their team. And I had her walk around the perimeters of the goal of what is her area to protect. And I said, you see where all this box goes, this is your house, and you got to protect it. This is our house. And I kept talking that to her. Well, we went to the next game, and her mindset, she saw it. She was like, I got to protect this house. And she was screaming. She was blocking all these goals, and she was screaming after she blocked the goal, I'm protecting my house. So whatever it is, you got to visualize it and see it, because when you see it and you can believe it, nothing can stop you. And another part of it is, too, is as you have your vision, I would encourage you to share your vision with other people. Don't just keep it to yourself. Your vision isn't something that you just kind of ride along, because your vision is something that will transform the people around you, because it's bigger than you. So I would encourage you to take some time to share your vision with other people, because it'll help you to say, hey, they might have some good things to help you to build towards that vision, because maybe part of what you're doing is a part of their vision. You never know. Teamwork makes the dream work. But just wanted to share that with you in terms of how do you help elevate the people around you, because when you do that with your vision, you never know where it may take you. All right, so you talked about the practical steps towards your vision, because it's not just going to be like today I decide to do this, that everything's going to work in my favor. So the first thing is have a personal balance sheet. This is breaking down where you at currently in relation to where you see yourself being, where the vision is. And then look at what the gaps are there. What those gaps are, that's where your development plan should be built. Oftentimes people say, I want to just focus on my strengths. There's merit in that. But if you only focus on your strengths, you minimize the potential that you have without really deliberately focusing on some of those developmental areas that we all have. So if you give yourself that time when you get to developing your plan, if you take the time to look at, all right, I'm going to dedicate deliberate practice to this area of development. It might be uncomfortable. Think about it. When you first learned how to ride a bike, it didn't happen the first few times you got on the bike. You fell a few times. What always happens with young people when they're learning how to ride a bike, they fall a few times, get a couple of scratches. Some of them like, I don't want to get back on that bike again, right? But many parents will say, I know you don't want to get on the bike again, but think about it. If you can get on that bike, you might be able to go down to the playground with your friends, right? Don't have to wait for mom or dad to try to drive you. So they're starting to say, okay, I can get a little bit of independence. So there's that purpose behind the developmental practice, but also can you be disciplined when it doesn't turn out right the first few times, or you keep going back to the drawing board and look at what else do you need to tweak to keep growing. So your development plan should always be around what's one area you can get better at, and focus on that until you get better at it. And then you add something else in. The next piece is, do you have a place to experiment? So as you are doing your development plan, and as I was giving the example of learning how to ride a bike, do you have a safe place where you can experiment with those things as you're practicing them, those developmental areas? And do you have the right people around you that could give you some sound advice, that could encourage you when you need it, that can also say, hey, you know what, that missed the mark here. This is what I think you might need to think about as you move forward. Because you need that objectivity, but you also need somebody who will be supportive and not just say, why are you even trying to do this? Because they could be crushing your dream, they could be crushing your vision. So be careful about who's in your inner sanctum to be able to speak encouragement to you and what it is that you're trying to do. Now, when I talked about where do you go from here, So when we look at where do we go from here, key thing is we all need to understand and have a growth mindset. Carol Dweck, author, researcher, she wrote a book called The Growth Mindset. But in her research, she really talked about two different kinds of people. People that have a fixed mindset where basically their interests are inherent and basically like your natural talents, you have your natural talents, you just stick with those and you're good. Other way of saying, hey, I'm just going to stick on my strengths. Well, somebody that has a growth mindset, they believe that interest and areas of growth can be learned. So if I have an opportunity today, 2 years from now, I can be an expert in that if I put the right time, practice, and allow myself to grow. So you want to have a growth mindset. The a couple things to keep in mind so that you don't stop yourself from having a growth mindset. Yes, there are some things where we do need to have some fixed mindset with, and it is a proper balance. But really, most of us really need to work on how do we develop ourselves. Many companies today really focus on, I have great leaders or talented people. I'm just going to focus all my eggs on those talented people that I already have in my system. But what about those middle of the road folks where if they get the right coaching, the right development, how much would they elevate your organization's performance if they're able to grow and develop? So think about these couple things as you don't want to get stagnant. First thing is if you're saying, hey, things are going well, that can really get you stuck in a fixed mindset, because then what happens is I've been doing this for so long. I've invested so much time into this. I've got so much invested that it's hard for me to move on from this. Hard for me to see another opportunity. And then the next piece is all right, how do you take a look at now you're at an intersection, you have an opportunity of growth, and there might be some new ideas on the table, and you're like, they're new ideas, they sound good, but I don't even want to try them because I already got something good going on. Well, that might be a missed opportunity without trying it out, experimenting, that you don't get to grow and maybe add something else into your toolbox to make you more effective. So when we think about it, it's like if you're in, as being realtors and being in the real estate market, think about 2019. 2019, things was booming, if I understand it correctly. I'm not a realtor, but if I understand the things were booming. Finance interest rates were at a great point. People were buying up things left and right. But then 2020 happened. And now we're in 2023. The interest rates are going up high. Well, bottom line is if you're still thinking that what worked in 2019 is going to work in 2023, I don't know. How's that working for you? Some instances, there are some core principles that will never change, but yet there's certain things that we got to understand what's happening in our ecosystem to know what areas do we need to adjust in order to meet the opportunity that's in front of us. So think about some things where you can give yourself in these transitional times. It's like there's still people that are going to need to buy a house. Let's get that straight, right? But it's a little different of how to get there. Do you understand what part you're going to play with the new dynamic to help them to get there? And who are the people in the matrix that you can work with in terms of matrix collaboration that might be outside of your field of expertise, but yet if you're learning from each other, how can we both approach this together? Who knows what can happen, right? There is opportunity there. It just looks different than what it did maybe 2-3 years ago. The other piece here is I want to talk about how do you have the ability to navigate through change and ambiguity. So I started talking about hate change as things change around us, but people oftentimes really push away when things are gray area. They don't want to make any decision, or they'll make a decision that had worked for them before. And in ambiguity, decision making becomes more dynamic, which simply means is that it's going to keep changing over time. You're going to have to assess more frequently the decision you made in an ambiguous time where things are looking different than what you came from. There's really no set comparator, and I'm really working off a benchmark that really hasn't been in place before. So now this is where your core values come in. How does this fall in line with helping your vision to be innovative? How does this fall in line with building trust? How does this fall in line? So those are some things that can help you in that ambiguity, but yet think about how you can shift in terms of, well, what is new that I haven't experienced before that I can start to learn a little bit more about. There's an author by the name of Franz Johansson who wrote a book called The Medici Effect. And one of the things about the Medici Effect is referring to a family. It's a book about innovation. And it talks about one of the most innovative times in our history was during, it was like the late 1400s, early 1500s, when the time of the Renaissance exploded. And the Medici family was a banking family that financed a lot of artists, architects and poets, and you name it, all in their villa in Florence, Italy. And from this came the Renaissance. There was a lot of sharing of ideas, and there was a points of intersection where if I'm an artist or if I am someone who's an architect, where I could have easily said, I'm not going to do what you do in art. I deal in architecture. But some of the things that the artists were able to visualize changed the way they built arches later and during the Renaissance. Some of the most infamous people that we know of from art-wise that was there was Michelangelo. So there's something there when we are able to share our ideas to really cause that inertia to create a rising tide so that we raise all ships. That really makes a difference. So ultimately, when you're in this bit of change and ambiguity, what is it that you need to do at that point of intersection to adapt, adjust, learn in your armamentarium, in your toolbox to develop yourself to keep moving forward? And the final piece here is accountability. A big part of accountability is simply, what will you need to do to sustain your progress? Who are those people that will help you to do that? What tools will you need? Because ultimately, you know, Mike Tyson said it best. Everyone has a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? True. One way or another, we're going to get hit in the mouth when we're going towards our goal, and it's like everything's popping. Then all of a sudden, bam, what happened, right? Bottom line, the last little story as I wrap up here. France is known for its champagne, among other things. Cheeses, all that stuff. But France is known for champagne. It's the best place to get champagne in the world. Well, we all heard a lot about climate change. Well, with climate change, it's impacted the harvest of the grapes in France to the point that the harvest was actually harvesting too rapidly, and they weren't able to get the right kind of grape to make their quality champagne that they're accustomed to making. So they were at an intersection. They were at a place of ambiguity. What happened? Well, simply what happened is they ended up buying up, these big champagne manufacturers ended up buying up land in England and parts of England where the climate was still right that they can grow their grapes. Secondly, they created a science team to start looking at creating some type of a genetically altered grape to be able to withstand some of the climate changes that they're experiencing in France right now. So here's a real world problem. And yet, in the real time, there's not an exact decision. They stated, this was on 60 Minutes, the manufacturer stated, like, right now we've moved our plants, our wineries and vineyards over to England to help build those right grapes because the climate is right. But we still have to look beyond that piece strategically because we don't know how soon that's going to change the climate over where we're producing grapes in England. So that's where they're taking a look at some other options. So bottom line, do you know where you're going to? Do you like what life is showing you? And when you look back, did you get what you were hoping for? Bottom line, define your why and act with purpose to fulfill it. Don't take no for an answer. That's all I have, folks. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Caitlin, Laura, thank you for letting me join on today. And hopefully someone was inspired one way or another to take some steps towards either refocusing on vision or adjusting or building their vision if you don't already have one. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That was really great. And I actually really love that you emphasize so much about sharing the vision and not just keeping it inside, because when you can picture it yourself, the next step is to share it, because that just brings it into existence. Whether you write it down or speak it out loud, it is now the start of a plan. And then just
Yes.
knowing that you have people in your corner is like so huge. I love that you pointed out too, to have the right people,
Right.
because sometimes the people around you are going to bring you down or slow you down or just like stop you in your tracks. And having people, and they might not be the closest people in your circle, you might actually have to reach out and find someone outside of your
Yes.
circle and grow that way. But just being able to share and grow and maybe help other people with their visions as well is a really great point to make.
Yeah, the collaborating with other people's visions to even maybe learn more about what you truly want your vision to be and what vision is best for you and your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I also loved that I had no idea that there was somebody besides the Wright brothers who were originally preparing the plans for an airplane. That was really inspirational.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. And
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to mention to everybody while we're chatting here, if you have any questions for JoJo, you can drop them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll get those answered for you.
Yeah. I know you had a question, Laura.
I did have a question. Like as you're coaching people, what seems to be a common like hurdle that you hear from a lot of people that you help work them like through the problem? Is there something that you hear repeatedly from people?
Hmm. That's a great question, Laura. What I hear repeatedly, it comes across different from each person, but a common thread is somewhere there's a disbelief that they can. Sometimes they say it, well, I just don't know it. This is new to me, or you know what, or sometimes they put fear. They'll say, I'm afraid to. Well, what is it that you're afraid of? And when they really dig down, it's nothing major, but a lot of times it's because they don't believe. They don't see themselves at all. So a big part of it is belief.
Imposter syndrome is very real and very rampant, and I think a majority of us deal with it.
Yeah.
Yes. Great call out.
And it's great too, like if you're able to work through that as an agent, then you can help your clients get through that hurdle as well.
Mhm.
All right, let's see.
That's
I'm
right.
not seeing anyone with questions yet. I did also want to remind everybody there is a spring giveaway. If you are signed up for our emails, make sure you're signed up. You should already be, but don't unsubscribe at any point because we are giving away awesome items all the time. Right now, we're doing Agent U branded air tags. So if you have any Apple products, it's always great to have those to put them on anything that you're using, especially in your line of work. You have a lot of things to keep track of. And you also get an Agent U t-shirt along with it. But I'm very excited to send those out. I can't wait to see who wins. In your emails that you'll get after the live stream, there will be a link to take the survey and let us know what you thought of this live stream today, and can enter to win that giveaway.
Well, I don't see any questions at this point. Do you have any other questions, Laura?
I actually would like to ask JoJo, where can people find you if they want
Yeah.
some personalized insight from you? I know we have our social links for you on the Agent News site itself, but is there a better place that they should be looking?
No, that's the best place. My JJ Herndon, Herndon at herndoncoaching.com is a great place. You can email me there. Definitely, if you're interested and want to walk through some things, I'll be more than happy to meet with you.
Wonderful.
All right, so it doesn't look like we have any questions, which is great that we can wrap up and get everybody back to their day after a lunch. And we're hoping to see you guys next month for our next live stream. We'll be focused on cybersecurity and how to keep yourself safe. So it's very helpful, especially with the amount of messages that you're going to have going back and forth in your line of work. So
Yeah.
definitely tune in. We'll be sharing more information about that in the coming weeks. So check our social media pages and your email for more info. Thank you so much, JoJo. It was so great to have you on here.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. And you guys have a great one.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.